Coming up today on Eagle Eyes on Tech, Mozilla is downsizing its activist division. We'll get into detail what that means. The PS5 Pro reviews are in, and boy, are there some opinions on that. A new gaming CPU has been crowned. Yes, there finally is one CPU that is worth upgrading to, and we now know what Nintendo is after when they're going after Palworld. We have a lot of details on that coming up today on Eagle Eyes on Tech. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, North. I'm gonna go to bed already. This is Eagle Eyes on Tech. I am Eagle Falcon. We don't have a lot to talk about, but we have one major story that has been on everyone's mind. We're gonna cover that at the end of the podcast. That's gonna be the last story we talk about, other than the last burb. But we do have a lot of other things to talk about as well, just nowhere near as important as our last story. That, of course, being the palworld story. We do have a statement from them. We now know what Nintendo was after, and even the dollar amount of what they're after. And it all says a lot about what the nature of this lawsuit actually is. And you might be thinking that I'm just trying to go ahead and get you to stay until the end. That's a big letdown story. I try to avoid doing that. I'm going to be honest. This actually is a big deal. You know what isn't a big deal? Netflix. I know that sounds like a lame cop-out, but no. Netflix is removing a lot of its interactive content. These are a lot of the streaming video games that people have had very mixed opinions on. It's like, oh, that's kind of cute. Some of them are big letdowns or whatever, and just bleh. But we now can safely say that of all this content, nobody cared. And in fact, a lot of this interactive stuff is going away. And I'm not going to lie, the fact that it existed in the first place is still stunning to me. All right. It made no sense for Netflix to get into this game. In fact, YouTube is already in this game, and it makes even less sense for them. I mean, let's be honest. How many of you listening to me right now have actually scrolled down on YouTube and played any one of those really silly integrated YouTube mobile games out of anything other than sheer curiosity? Like, how many of you have actually gone ahead and fired up one of those because it was a good, fun game? Okay, now put your hands down, because I know you're both lying and I can't see your hands. This is a podcast. I can't see you. No one is. No one is going to do that. No one has done that. So why would it work on Netflix? It's silly. Here, you want to know? Here's the real truth. Here's the real hard truth when it comes to Netflix. The only time people are actually going to fire up their Netflix is when there's a good show to watch, or they're about to go and renew their subscription because they heard the new Squid Games is coming out soon. That's pretty much it. So that's it, right? There's going to be no other interactive experiences going on Netflix. It's funny you mentioned that. We have some interesting little news coming from Netflix that, in fact, they are closing their quote-unquote AAA game studio, that it was a planned transition, and they want to go ahead and transition over to a new initiative powered by AI. Now, first off, I completely forgot that Netflix actually had a quote-unquote AAA game studio, TM, that actually had talent from games that actually know what they're doing, like God of War and Overwatch, I guess. Now we're going to focus on a new initiative powered by AI. All right, now raise your hand if you have any faith in this new initiative. Oh, I see you over there. You failed the test. I still can't see your hands. Podcast. You fell for it again. No, this is going to be a disaster. Here's one thing I've learned. Right now, if you just want to go ahead and get around having to explain yourself, all you got to do is say, I have a new project powered by AI, and then refuse to elaborate. And for whatever reason, in the business world, this works. I don't know why this works. No one knows why this works. It shouldn't work because nobody can point to anything other than ChatGPT as a tech demo and say that AI has had any sort of massive success. There are moments when generative AI can go ahead and create results that are incredible and absolutely terrifying. But most of the time, you know what you end up having to do with generative AI? You have to hit next over and over and over again. Or I'm sorry, regenerate until you get a result you actually like. You want to know why AI artists, quote unquote, feel that they put in as much work as regular artists? Because they have to hit retry 2,000 times to get a piece that looks good. Despite how much tech companies want to go ahead and claim that, oh my God, we are in a new age. It is incredible. AI is for certain the future. Here's the actual truth. They really just want it to be a future. Right now, AI is still very much in its infancy. What we're seeing right now is AI finally learning how to walk. We've seen it crawl over the last few years. It's finally getting the ability to walk. It is still very early in generative AI, but we are treating it like it is ready to go right the F now. And it's not. It simply is not. Good luck, Netflix. That's all I got to say to that. Good luck with your crazy hopes and dreams of your generative AI powered project accomplishing something other than just, I don't know, playing to buzzwords. Speaking of buzzwords, Microsoft realized something very important when it comes to AI. They realized that calling everything Copilot does not help. It turns out using Copilot as its brand for AI has led to confusion, such as what the heck is Copilot? And what isn't AI? And why? Just why? Well, Microsoft has decided we are going to go ahead and come up with a new name for AI. They're going to call it a brand new, bold name that definitely isn't copying anyone. They're going to call it, yeah, you guessed it. They're calling it Windows Intelligence. For some insane reason, they believe that that the rest of us making fun of Apple for Apple Intelligence doesn't apply to them. So they thought that, yeah, Windows Intelligence, that's a great name. Someone in chat said, I liked Copilot. I didn't mind the term Copilot, but here's the thing. I hated the fact they used the term Copilot to be the name for like 30 different products. It ranked right up there with the old days of your computer illiterate grandfather and calling every component of the computer a CPU. That's what Copilot felt like. They just called way too many things Copilot. Now it's Windows Intelligence. All right, Microsoft, I'm just going to tell you this right now. You're stupid. Look, this is just, no, just stop. Someone in chat seems to think that the picture they're using here is AI generated. I don't think this is. I'm pretty sure it's not AI generated. I'm pretty sure it's just bad. Man, that right hand. If it's an AI image, it's a very good AI image, but that hand looks kind of sus. I think it actually was just from an old Keynote. And I'm pretty sure that this is just a projector screen, and that's why it looks like it has texture. That's my guess anyway. But nothing really stands out other than his one hand looking a bit off, but I think that's just because he was moving his hand when the picture was taken. I don't think that's AI generated. The other question is, why would you even bother? That'd be a weird thing for them to just generate. You know what they should use AI to generate, though? They should go ahead and use AI to generate a new method for acquiring nuclear power, because apparently regulators are not really thrilled with Amazon and Meta's nuclear power ambitions. Now, at this time, Amazon, Meta, and Microsoft have all gone and try and purchase nuclear plants just for powering their data centers that power AI. However, Microsoft went ahead and just said, hey, we're going to go ahead and recommission this decommissioned plant and get it up to code before operating it. And, other than the fact that the plant is located at Three Mile Island and they want to go ahead and use the one that still worked and not the one that blew up, there's not really a whole lot there. Amazon and Meta are finding out, though, that, they're running into some problems. Specifically, I'm trying to see what the actual things. You hear from TechCrunch, Meta, for example, is planning to build an AI center next to an already operating nuclear plant, but as the project progressed, regulatory hurdles have been piling up. CEO Mark Zuckerberg told staff in an all-hands-on meeting that one hurdle was citing a rare bee species on the land. That's it. I mean, I chuckle. I just expected the regulation to be something more than bees. The thing is that, although we're chuckling at the thought that, it's just bees, just move the bees. Bees. The problem is that when you've got like a rare species of bees and they've already made a hive, you can't disturb them. You just can't. There's EPA regulations that stop you from doing so. So that's actually be a massive hurdle for Mark Zuckerberg. They have to now find a new plot of land or just hope that the bees move off on their own or just don't survive the winter. But considering the fact that, where are they building this plant anyway? Is it in the west or in the east? I don't think they're actually I don't think it's actually saying exactly what state it's in. The thing is that right now we're on track to be a very warm winter. Someone in chat says, or you can just not use AI. Oh, that is absolutely not an option. Have you seen the way Mark Zuckerberg operates? He absolutely you don't understand. Here's the thing, right? Tech giants right now have a horrible brainworm inside their heads. They see generative AI as the next big thing and want to go ahead and do it. They have to. If they go ahead and don't embrace AI, their competition will, and they will go bankrupt. That is the brainworm that is in their heads. What all of these guys refuse to acknowledge is the fact that the overwhelming majority of the population does not care about generative AI. There's just no stopping it. They just want to go ahead and just keep on going. It's just like someone's going to appreciate it. And when they do, we'll make millions. We know better. And let me tell you, Meta specifically has been awful about pinning down exactly what people want. I mean, remember the last time Meta said that they had a good, that Meta said they knew exactly what the customer wants? Remember the metaverse? Remember how big that was? Remember how everything we do now is in the metaverse and how everything we do is meta related in the metaverse and how we don't use regular screens anymore. We use the metaverse. Remember that part? Remember? I remember. Oh, wait, that didn't happen, did it? Darndest thing, huh? Yeah. It's kind of the same thing here with AI, except everyone believes it's the future because they saw a handful of tech demos that looked okay-ish. Oh well. Amazon also hit a snag when they wanted to go ahead and go forward with their plans. Theirs, however, is in regards to the fact they want to take up a significant portion of the plant's electricity, and the FERC, which apparently is a thing, the FERC says that they cannot. I'm telling you right now, the biggest hurdle that AI has is efficiency. They just do not have efficiency right now. It takes so much power to do what generative AI does, and its results are just awful. But hey, it's all good because everyone wants AI, right? Right? Everyone loves AI. Just like everyone loves NVIDIA and how they have now taken the place of Intel inside the Dow Jones Index because NVIDIA is such a well-loved company that everyone loves. Totally. This is actually kind of a big deal. It may not seem like it, but it kind of is. The fact that Intel is out of the Dow Jones and Nvidia is in, it really is a sign of just, first off, how bad Intel is right now. Just keep in mind, think about this for a second. If you want to go ahead and buy an Intel powered chip that is decent and actually is respectable and doesn't have a massive flaw and doesn't have trust issues, you have to go back 4 generations. That's insane. It's nuts that's this kind of situation they're in right now. They're losing more and more ground in the server market. It wasn't that long ago where Intel looked unstoppable in the server market. They are finally starting to lose ground to AMD. They are finally starting to see more and more people switch to AMD, or unfortunately, ARM. If you told me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that people would go ahead and choose ARM powered laptops over Intel laptops, I'd call you high as a kite. It didn't seem physically possible. Here we are now. ARM laptops really are the new hotness. Unless you're looking for performance, then you're looking at AMD. Like, Intel has to get its act together, or they're just going to be, they'll still be around, but they're going to be around like Broadcom is around, or Matrox, or pick a vendor. Heck, imagine this. Here's a terrifying thought. What if Nvidia bought Intel? I think that might be the nightmare scenario right there. And not gonna lie, all that long ago, that idea would have been laughed at. Intel's way too big. Nvidia could never buy them. Now Nvidia's the giant. Nvidia could buy Intel. Would the deal be stopped under monopolistic concerns? Probably. But it's still something that could be done. The thought of Nvidia getting their hands on Intel and their intellectual property, their fabrication plants, and much, much more, it's not a good look for competition inside the computing space. Meanwhile, though, Mozilla is also looking a bit concerning, as Mozilla is eliminating their advocacy division. This is the division that went ahead and lobbied in various governmental bodies for free and open web. Mozilla, if you don't know, they make one of the most popular web browsers on the planet. It's like, what, fourth most popular? It's the most popular that isn't Chrome, which is still an accurate statement. Actually, I think Safari might be more popular, and I don't think Safari is Chrome. You know, would it really surprise me at all to find out that frickin' Safari went Chrome based? I think the sad thing is that it actually wouldn't surprise me at all. Ugh. Why is this the world we live in? Why? In any case, Mozilla would, of course, fight back against a lot of the pushes that Google does to make sure that Google has as much control over the web as possible, including try to push and promote more and more and more standards that support Chrome and Chrome alone. Mozilla, however, found itself having to eliminate this division and had to lay off 30% of their workforce in order to maintain sustainability. Does this mean that we're all doomed and Chrome is just going to go ahead and take over everything, and all forms of, that was weird, that all forms of, what's the right word I'm looking for? That all forms of standard that Google wants and Google wants alone are just going to get pushed forward? Probably not. There is still going to be some pushback from other areas, and Mozilla is still going to go ahead and put their best foot forward for their own business practices. It just means that a lot of the activism they would do is no longer going to be a thing that they do. In other news, though, there is more rumors going around. This one's from a trusted leaker regarding Apple, is that Apple's hopes of having a cheaper Vision Pro, remember the Vision Pro? The $3,500 VR headset that totally took off and everyone loves? The thing that definitely isn't controversial as heck? That thing? Yeah, they want to make a cheaper one. Unfortunately, It looks like a cheaper Vision Pro has been delayed until after 2027. They are 3 years out. You know what this is telling me? Apple is not seeing their future being the Vision Pro or Vision OS as a whole. Apple is looking at the tea leaves and going, you know, maybe Meta was smoking crack when they said that VR was the future. Because there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of customer demand for this stuff. No kidding. Who would have thought? I'll tell you this right now. Don't be surprised that there's a delay. Don't be surprised if you hear word that it's canceled. I don't see the Vision Pro having much of a future. Someone in chat said VR is the future. You're old. Oh, please do go on. Please go on, obvious troll. Tell me how VR is the future. Show me one piece of evidence besides the Zuck said so, because he's had a good track record about how VR is the future. Oh no, come on, please. I'll wait. Do go on. All they said was VR chat. I think I rest my case. Yeah, I mean, the interest just isn't there. And right now, the absolute hard pushers of technology, they're no longer interested in trying to push VR. They're not even interested in trying to push AR. They are interested in trying to push generative AI as hard as they possibly can. And quite frankly, it's not working. That's just all there is to it. We're going to take our first break here. When we come back, I want to get to the PS5 Pro and talk about how well that's doing. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. A little bit of breaking news as we're recording things. Nintendo announced about an hour ago that they will have a new Nintendo Direct specifically involving their Universal Studios Japan. They say this stream will be roughly 10 minutes long and showcase the Donkey Kong Country side of the Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Japan. No game information will be featured. So I'll just tell you this right now. No, there's going to be no information about the Switch 2. No, there's going to be no information about anything else that Nintendo is cooking. No, there's not going to be any information that you actually want to know about regarding the lawsuit. That's later in this podcast, by the way. It is just talking about Universal Studios Japan. You can safely ignore this Nintendo Direct. All right? You can safely ignore it. So you know what? Good. In other news, though, Nintendo did confirm directly from their CEO that, in fact, the Switch 2 will play original Switch games, and it will also support the ability to play the digital-only ones. This actually was a bit of a major concern because, of course, yeah, sure, it can go ahead and support and play the cartridges, maybe. But what about the digital ones? The ones that you downloaded specifically for your Switch? Are they going to battle the Switch 2? Are we going to start seeing the benefits of hardware games versus software games? No, we're not actually yet. Right now, Nintendo does still plan on supporting all your digital games on the Switch 2, to which I say good. Very good. Someone in chat asked, they wonder if their Raspberry Pi 4 can play original Nintendo games. Probably, but don't stream them. You might get sued. We'll get into that later on. In the meantime, though, I want to actually get back to one other Apple story I have. This one in regards to proof that Apple does, in fact, just try to go ahead and mess with their users by soldering everything onto the board. A repair YouTuber has made it possible with a mod for 2016 MacBook Pros with Touch Bar to be able to have swappable SSDs without altering the form factor. Will you look at that? Will you look at that? It is doable. Apple just wanted to make things less repairable. What are the odds? Man, who would have thought that Apple would go out of their way to make stuff less repairable and make it more inconvenient for their users? That's crazy. That's crazy. It can be done. So the next time an Apple fanboy goes, well, everything has to be soldered on the board, that's the only way they can get their stuff as small and sleek as it is. You don't want a bulky laptop. I'm going to say bull pie, because someone proved it can be done in their current form factor. Take that. Meanwhile, though, the PS5 has, in fact, released and has been reviewed. And here's what we learned. Sony paid CNET a lot. That's what I learned. Someone in chat also did point out, and I actually forgot to get a story about this too in my prep, that the new Mac Mini does use a removable SSD. It actually does. The new Mac Mini, the new M4 Mac Mini, does in fact have a removable SSD inside. Teardowns did show it. So it is there. You can remove it. You got to be very comfortable to go ahead and get in there to swap it out. You know what's even better? It actually is a standard SSD. It's not like dime a dozen on the shelf, but it is a standard. It uses an M2 quarter height card, which does exist and is a standard. Yeah. Now, the PS5 Pro, here's what I'll tell you right now. This thing costs a lot of money. And for the kind of money that the PS5 Pro costs, you expect a lot of performance increases. All right. This thing costs $700 new with no stand and no disk drive. To get that in a regular, you are paying $449. You do technically get a performance. You do technically get a performance bump up with the PS5 Pro. Here's the thing. It is nigh impossible to detect what the performance bump is, because the number of games that support the newer hardware and perform well on it is very, very slim. The best video I've seen so far, and there's probably better ones out there that I haven't seen yet, is actually, oddly enough, from Linus Tech Tips, the king of dropping everything that has value, in which it showed that there actually was noticeable differences in the performance of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But then you take it to other games and it's the same game on both consoles. The difference is just not noticeable. I'm not going to lie. It is very difficult to justify the $250 price bump when not everything supports it yet. And quite frankly, that's what a lot of other people are saying. They can't justify spending this kind of money. People in my chat are saying that Metaphor showed no signs of improvement on the PS5 Pro. So you spend $250 extra for nothing, with at this time no ability to support physical media without going ahead and getting something third party and hoping it works. Some people have said that the regular PS4 Slim TM drive is pairable with the PS5 Pro, but I haven't really seen any confirmation of this, so I'm a little reluctant to go ahead and confirm whether this is or is not real. It's just it's hard to justify this. It really is. And I'm not gonna lie, the fact that CNET gives this thing just a massive, oh my god, everything looks so much better. Oh, it's so much better than the standard PS5. Ooh, wow. In my week of testing, this thing looks amazing. How much did Sony pay you guys? Because everyone else is showing that, yeah, it's mid. Here's what we do know. We do know the specs of the PS5 Pro. We do now know its specs. It is, as we expected, rocking a Zen 2 8-core CPU. We kind of figured the CPU was going to be exactly the same. It is also using an RDNA-based GPU, exact same generation as the PS5. We kind of expected this. The actual benchmarks show that the PS5 Pro's GPU is rocking 16.7 teraflops of compute versus the PS5's 10.23 teraflops. In addition, this thing is rocking 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory and also has 2 gigabytes of DDR5 memory for just handling background tasks. It is using a 2 terabyte SSD, and it's just shy of 400 watts of power consumption. So for the most part, here's what I can tell you right now. There is a lot of potential inside this console. It's just that nothing can touch it right now. If you somehow in this current economy, which I'm not gonna lie is rough, the current economy is very rough. If you somehow got the extra money to get a PS5 Pro, there's a good chance that down the road, it'll be a worthwhile buy as the PS5 continues to creep closer and closer to the end of its life cycle, further down the life of this console. Here's the thing. You should never buy anything based on what it could do in the future. Never. Period. End of story. Never, ever, ever buy a console based on future promises, or any tech gadget for that matter. Just look at the Teslas. Look at them still waiting on their full self-driving that was promised 10 years ago. Crazy how that works, huh? Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But people will buy it, and nothing I can really do to stop them. I would just get a used PS5. That would be my go-to. Does the actual Sony website have accessories you can get for the PS5? Or is everyone just assuming that the PS5 Slim accessories will work? That is one thing I have not seen yet. I want to see. All right, I have the disk drive for the PS5 digital edition on the thing. I want to see if it actually says it's compatible with the PS5 Pro. It does not explicitly say it is compatible with the PS5 Pro. It is also, oh wait, no, never mind. For use with PS5 digital edition consoles and PS5 Pro consoles. So yeah, you have to spend an additional $80 to go ahead and have the compatibility of this thing, the compatibility of disk drives. And I suspect to say the same thing for the PS5 stand. Yep, for use with PS5 consoles, PS5 digital edition consoles, and PS5 Pro consoles. I'll tell you what, this vertical stand for the PS5 consoles, my stand does not look like this. The one my ship with looks way cheaper. I'm willing to bet they're both the same quality, and this is just chromed plastic. So yeah, I can confirm now that these accessories do in fact exist for the PS5 Pro. Just not a lot of people want to talk about it. Someone in chat asked if my PS5 is a fat. It is. Mine is the original PS5. Theirs specifically says the PS5, which would suggest it is the PS5 fat. I'm willing to bet that stand is not compatible. Nah, well, let's not talk about PC parts. Someone in chat's already talked about how like the PCs have exceeded those specs for the last 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, the thing is that PCs are also more expensive. Like that's the big thing, is that PCs you have to know what you're doing. You have to go ahead and actually piece things out and everything. Someone in chat says Mac Mini M4 blows the PS5 Pro out of the water. Untrue. We actually don't have any specs on the graphics. Not only that, but the M4 Mac Mini just doesn't have any sort of game compatibility. You'd have to go into emulation territory, and you're going to lose a lot of performance in that regard. So I am not going to go ahead and say the M4 can blow away the PS5 Pro. If someone crazier with more money wants to go ahead and compare that, oh my God, go ahead and do it. I don't though. But considering the fact that Apple goes ahead and makes they do not focus on graphic performance like at all. Apple Silicon is focused pretty much exclusively on CPU performance and AI performance and nothing else. The GPU is just kind of there to just be there because Mac has no games. They have no motivation to go ahead and put real GPU performance on there. Like anything that would compare with even the basic sort of GPU that a PS5 regular would have. That being said, though, AMD actually made a chip worth getting. I present to you the Ryzen 7 9800X3D. the new king of gaming CPUs. The Ryzen 9000 series launched to just kind of meh sort of reviews. The 9000 was just kind of okay. It was kind of better, but mostly performance per watt improvements, and it was really a letdown all around. The 9800 X3D, I originally said I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's probably gonna be like a 2 or 5% improvement. It is not. It is close to a 10 to 15% improvement over the old 7800 X3D. It is a big leap forward, to which I gotta say, good. Because holy cow, thinking that an entire generation of CPU performance was really going to be, just stick with what you got, it's better anyway. It's kind of sad. It really, really is. Well, honestly, good news. Someone in chat says we'll just struggle on with the 7800 X3D chip. I mean, that's fine. It's still a good chip. I'm not saying, all right, the old one's junk or anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I am saying is that, well, we finally do have some hope in this generation that, in fact, someone can go ahead and actually make an improvement. Because people may not realize this. Intel put out an entire generation of chips that was actually worse than what they were replacing. Very similar to Intel Core replacing the Pentium 4, where the performance increase was just not great. And in AMD, their performance increase was about the same, except it consumed less watts, which also very not exciting. So to go ahead and see at least one CPU go ahead and put out good results, I'm all in favor of. Huzzah, huzzah, huzzah. And you want to know how impressive this chip is? It's already gone. It is now in the territory of being out of stock and just now in the danger of being scalped. Unlike the PS5, unlike the PS5 Pro, which scalpers are stuck with now because they found out nobody wants them. Isn't great? Yay? Question mark. I'm not gonna lie, this definitely still feels like a generation where I feel pretty confident I can go ahead and just safely stick with the hardware I got. I'm good. I'm good. I can live with what I got currently. Feel pretty good about it. Steam has introduced a new feature. There is now game recording for everyone. It is out of beta. If you have Steam, you can now record your gameplay. I have a question. Like, this is good news for Steam Deck users. You can go ahead and do this on your Steam Deck now. But has anyone who actually records gameplay used anything other than the NVIDIA tool or OBS? Like, it's nice that this tool exists, you know, huzzah, huzzah, more accessibility. But I feel like everyone who is going to go ahead and actually use any kind of game recording tool, they were going to use OBS. This isn't like the dark ages of using, someone in chat just said Bandicam. Oh my God. I was going to say Fraps. Bandicam, Fraps. I mean, we're out of those dark ages. We have OBS now. The tools that we have accessible is kind of insane. And I admit, someone in chat says I'm saying this is a non-casual user. This is also true. And granted, I will say, this is going to be the most efficient way to get footage off of a Steam Deck. By far, without a doubt. Because even with my tools, like let's say I wanted footage off my Steam Deck. I would have to take my Steam Deck, get into a nice position, hook up the HDMI to a capture card, hook up the capture card to my streaming PC, fire up OBS, make a scene that looks as plain as possible, so it doesn't have any of my wacky overlays or anything like that, hit record, hit start on it, find out the drivers were not compatible or that something was off with the resolution, go ahead and tweak all of that, and then fire it up again, and then go ahead and get capture. Or I could go into the menu built into Steam Deck and just record footage. Like, I'm sure this feature is good for someone. It just seems a bit bizarre when OBS does exist, and for the most part is about as user-friendly as anything has ever been. But, you know, I'm in a weird spot to go ahead and say whether something is or is not a good method of recording, since I have experience in OBS Studio. We're actually going to take our last break a little bit early. When we come back, I want to talk about Nintendo, the dark side of Nintendo. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. Nintendo has sued a streamer. Just straight up. The main reason? It is in fact because he emulates games. In Nintendo's defense, however, he is emulating games ahead of their release. So it's very obvious that he is in fact pirating games and acquiring his ROMs through a very illegal source. But if you ever want to say, hey, has Nintendo ever gone ahead and just sued a streamer for emulating games? You can say technically yes. I'm not gonna lie though, this might be the one case of this sort of thing where I kind of do side with Nintendo. You can't be doing this. You can't just go ahead and take this one case and go, oh my god, Nintendo hates emulation. No, they hate people trying to go ahead and stream games before they're launched. Like, this is actually a problem. The streamer has been openly defiant against Nintendo, shutting down channels, starting up new ones, and says he can, quote, do this all day. Yeah, you're not gonna have a whole lot of sympathy for me. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a fan of Nintendo and the way they treat emulation, but I'm still absolutely not a fan. All right. Palworld has in fact put out a statement regarding the lawsuit. All right. We do have some updates. Specifically, Nintendo is going after Palworld on the grounds of 3 different patent numbers. Specifically, these are patents: 7545191, 7493117, and 7528390. These patents are very interesting because if you were to look these patents up directly, you will find that the application date of these patents is past the launch of Palworld. However, this date is misleading because the original patents were filed back in 2022 and were then updated later on. In addition, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company are seeking damages to Palworld in the form of roughly $65,600 plus late payment damages. Do you know what's interesting about that number? 65,600? That's nothing. That doesn't even cover their lawyer fees. That doesn't cover their lawyer fees at all. The goal here clearly is to set a precedent. The other goal here is to make it as appealing as possible to go ahead and get Palworld to settle out of court. That's the goal. Now, as someone has pointed out in chat, I'm aware of this as well. Pocket Pair does have a game that came out before Palworld. That game also would infringe on these patents from the Pokemon Company. But here's the thing. That game predates these base patents. And yes, the one patent that talked about throwing an object to capture a monster and get a message and then use the monster later is in fact one of the patents. The one that a lot of people suspected was the patent that Nintendo was suing on is in fact the patent. Another one is actually just about riding a monster in the open world. Nintendo holds that patent. And yes, World of Warcraft does predate this patent. In fact, just about every MMO that's used this mechanic predates this mechanic, this patent. Here's what I'll say about this, all right? There is no other way to look at this and find a way to say that, yeah, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company are just straight up bullying Pocket Pair. Straight up, end of story. The patents that Nintendo has, I don't know if they would hold up in court because we're talking about a Japanese court. I have serious doubts that these patents would hold up in a Western court because there are plenty of examples of these things existing before the mechanics or before the patents were filed, and therefore would be deemed uneligible patents, invalidating the patents completely. On its face, it looks like to me a non-legal mind that Palworld has a real case to shut this down. However, because the amount of damages is so small, it is far more enticing for Palworld to just settle out of court and make this go away, and therefore de facto making it so that this kind of tactic is considered valid moving forward. I hope that Pocket Pair goes ahead and fights this and is able to shut down this method of attack. Because as people are mentioning in the chat, these patents are stupid. Especially the riding a mount patent. In fact, just in general, patenting game mechanics really does just hurt the entire games industry as a whole. Up until this point, you have probably heard multiple different people talking about this, about various oddball patents that were pushed out by old game developers that killed things like minigames during loading screens, or the nemesis system where a procedurally generated boss is your nemesis throughout an entire playthrough that makes playthroughs very interesting. That was patented. That's why we never saw a game with anything like that before. There's a lot of these that exist. And to see game mechanic patents once again being used as a legal weapon against a indie dev it's disgusting. There's no other way to say it. It's gross. It's disgusting. It's terrible. And before haters of Palworld go ahead and say, well, they had this coming for ripping off on Nintendo designs anyway. Nowhere in this lawsuit, I feel like I have to say this again and again, nowhere in this lawsuit did Nintendo or the Pokemon Company claim that there is a copyright infringement. Nintendo dug and dug and dug. They couldn't find anything to say that copyright or design was infringed. Palworld is safe on that front. Nor could they find any evidence of using AI to generate all this stuff. And honestly, Nintendo, who is a very sue-happy company, to not sue based on that tells me that my original assumption that generative AI was used to generate these Pokemon-like creatures, it's invalid. It's not there. Which then puts in a lot of question about, a lot of the other haters that brought this up. This being said, however, I want to restate, please, I really do hope Palworld fights back against this. And I really hope Palworld wins. But at the same time, the truth is simply, Palworld is an indie company. They have a finite amount of money. Nintendo is massive and has the wrath of 1,000 angry hornet's nests. In a long, drawn-out legal battle, Nintendo will eventually win. And I hope that what I assume is going to be the end outcome does not come to pass. It's very clear Nintendo's just here to set a precedent that patents can be used as a legal weapon and hurt innovation. Be terrible. By the way, another oddball news. I only included this because I ran out of stuff to talk about. But did you know that Stardew Valley had a new update? Yeah. You want to talk about a game company that just keeps on going? Stardew Valley is still pumping out updates. Imagine if they got hit with random patents that stopped them from making updates. Wouldn't that be... All I could do is just shake my head. Just shake my head. And now finally, I bring you to the last burb, the last story of the day, the weirdest story of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, remember when you thought that Notepad was going to go away? Remember that? Remember when I reported on that? Yeah, apparently, Microsoft does other plans. Like, bringing a generative AI update to Notepad, not WordPad, the program that actually had tools built to it. No. Notepad, the very basic one you can use for very basic file editing. That is the one that's getting AI updates. The one that's plain Jane, as simple as can be, and used for very simple edits. The one you actually want to stay as simple as possible. I do not condone violence. I don't. I do not believe in using violence at all. But holy cow, I want to slap someone at Microsoft with a wet trout. Because what are you thinking? It specifically has to be a trout. The most embarrassing of all the fishes to get slapped with. It just, no, just no. You let Notepad's the simple one. MS Paint's the simple. Let the simple apps remain simple. It's fine having two. You should have kept Notepad. Just leave it untouched. Let it be the simple freaking file editor that we all end up using it as anyway. Leave WordPad in because that's gone now. And add your generative AI BS to that one. Just no. People over at Microsoft really do need to stop. They need to sit down and rethink the things that they are doing. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode of Eagle Eyes on Tech. Thank you so much for listening. And I do encourage you to check out my other works, youtube.com/EagleFalcon. And my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/EagleFalcon. Take care, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye. Apparently, others have brought to my attention that Paint is also getting a generative AI update. Why? Just you know what? Just add AI to everything. Add AI to the command prompt. Run AI to MS-DOS. Let's bring DOS back. Let's add generative AI to that. Let's add generative AI to my wall chargers. My alarm clock. What else? Oh, my water bottle. Oh my god. Oh yes. My water bottle. This thing that everyone assumes is a Stanley cup, which it's not. It's a not. Just add generative AI to that. It absolutely needs to generate a deformed hand at command whenever it can. You know what? Add generative AI to my hilariously sophisticated weather radar app. That way it can hallucinate storms and just make a hurricane appear in the middle of the country so that I think that we're all going to die to a land hurricane that appeared out of nowhere. Why not? Let's just add generative AI to everything and therefore make everything absolutely useless. Oh, hey, the fire risk vanished off the East Coast. Neat.